Is the earth inert and dead, or is it alive? And does the earth have any rights, or is it okay for us to just do whatever we want to her?
The earth is very alive, and even scientists um, are recognizing that she is Gaia. Of course, indigenous cultures recognize she's Pachamama in the Andes. In India, we call her Bhumi and Dharitri and Vasundhara. She has 1,000 names. And it's all about not just her being alive, but her being the mother and we being the children. And as long as that recognition is there, we will recognize that she has rights and she gives us rights. So actually, after the Copenhagen summit failure, Evo Morales, the then president of Bolivia, said, I wasn't here to defend the rights of polluters, because 5 polluters got together and wrote a voluntary agreement. And that's what became the Paris Agreement. And he said, I'm here to protect the rights of Mother Earth. And then he brought some of us together and we wrote the draft UN declaration that went actually all the way to the General Assembly on the rights of Mother Earth. And my book on this has just been published in the United States. It's called Reclaiming the Commons. And it has, the last chapter is on the rights of Mother Earth and how these rights are now being recognized, because you can't give Mother Earth her rights, but you can recognize them. Just like you don't give indigenous people their rights, you prevent the historic injustice of denying them their full humanity and their full rights.
What do you mean when you say biodiversity of the soil? Why is the soil important, and what's happening that concerns you? How does the health of the soil affect the health of the people?
Well, health, as Albert Howard said, is a continuum from the soil to the plants, to the animals that eat them, including the human animal. We forget we are animals. You know, part of the Cartesian divide was to make us think we are not animals, we are, and we are separate and we're superior. That's what's called anthropocentrism. And this is what Howard wrote. A soil teeming with healthy life in the shape of abundant microflora and microfauna will bear healthy plants. And these, when consumed by animals and man, will confer health on animals and man. But an infertile soil, that is one lacking sufficient microbial, fungal, and other life, will pass on some form of deficiency to the plant, and such plant, in turn, will pass on some form of deficiency to animals and man. In 1 cubic meter of soil, a Danish study found 50,000 earthworms, 50,000 insects and mice, 12 million roundworms, and a gram of soil contains 50,000 algae, 400,000 fungi, including the mycorrhizal fungi, that really weaves life in the soil, billions of bacteria that take organic matter and turn it to soil fertility. The soil is the most amazing biodiversity, and that soil biodiversity then nourishes the biodiversity within us in our gut microbiome. If there's biodiversity in the soil, our gut microbiome is healthy. If we've desertified the soils, our gut microbiome is desertified, and that's the beginning of ill health and disease.
What is biodiversity-based organic farming? And tell us more about regenerative agriculture.
Well, I started to look at agriculture in 1984, when in Punjab, the farmers had started to protest. And Punjab is where the Green Revolution, chemical farming, was first introduced anywhere in the world, in the south of the world, through imposition of the World Bank. And in Punjab, 30,000 people were killed. And that same winter, thousands died in the city of Bhopal when a pesticide plant owned then by Union Carbide, now by Dow, which has a lovely name, Corteva, when it's merged with DuPont. And when I did my study for the United Nations, I was doing the study for the United Nations University. And I wanted to understand where the conflicts were coming from. And that's when I realized that when you have a monoculture of the mind, you will only see wheat or rice. You will not see what went into it. You will not see what happened to the soil. You will not see what happened to the farmer. The thousands have committed suicide because of debt. And you will definitely not see the quality of food. So I started to frame this as a biodiversity issue, not a monoculture of the mind, and I wrote a book on that, but a biodiversity and an organic farming, because you can have commodified, industrialized organic farming. But for me, biodiverse organic farming is working with nature, letting nature and her biodiversity do the work. You don't need synthetic fertilizers if you have biodiversity in the soil. You don't need pesticides if you have so much diversity of plants that they manage the balance between the insects and no one insect becomes a pest. So biodiversity-based organic farming is just recognizing that nature works through diversity and through the principle of return. And that's what we have to follow. Regenerative organic agriculture, just a new way of talking about it. And I'm part of the founding of the Regenerative International Movement. And this was partly because about 10 years ago, the industrial system realized that organic was growing very fast. And they did what they do, started to attack organic. Yeah, can't feed the world. In India, their stupid attack was, I'm bringing it from abroad. And then I started to do Harvard lecture to show Harvard took it from India when he was sent in 1905. And he wrote a book called An Agricultural Testament, which has been published by the Rodale Press in the United States. And they didn't get that one. And just because they try and criminalize one of our most important, and organic means that which is integrated, that which is living. I said, I'm not going to give up organic, but regenerative became important in the United States. And a whole new certification of regeneration started. But regeneration just means you allow the soil and biodiversity to regenerate. You allow your health to regenerate rather than the industrial globalized system of degenerating the soil, degenerating our health, degenerating the farmer economy, just degenerating life overall. So it's movement from a degenerative system to a regenerative system.